are like, why would I do science? There's no jobs for science. It's pointless. What's the point? What can you tell them to be like, go for it?
I always say to people that you can do your science degree, but you need to think beyond the degree.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another STEAMigram session. Yes, I am Amanda, and today we are still continuing with our theme for the month of August, which is Women in Science Making a Difference. And today is no different. Today we are talking to one woman who is doing an amazing job. Of course, she's a scientist, but she's also doing so many other things, which is just so inspirational, and I can't wait for us to talk to her. Welcome to the show, Mamohlomi.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this conversation because you're one of the people I met very early on when I was starting in the science communication space. And I remember we had a whole conversation. We spoke about what you do and why you're so passionate about it. And I can't wait for everybody else who's watching to also hear what you have to say, because I think it's so important and so beautiful.
All right, thank you so much.
First thing, obviously, you call yourself a consulting chemist, okay? But that's all right. I've never heard that term before. I've heard of a chemist, but I've never heard of a consulting chemist. What is a consulting chemist?
Well, it's exactly what a consultant is. I'm a consultant, but I'm a chemist, so it's just a matter of mixing two words. So that's why I'm the consulting chemist. It's just a matter of, sometimes when you just say you're a consultant, people always think of the finance or business space and things like that. So I'm a consultant in the science field, in the chemist field, so that's why I call myself a consulting chemist. Just to clarify to everybody, yeah. So that's the only thing. I go through different companies, I consult, and my job changes every day depending on what's on the line. Yeah.
That seems fun. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. Why did you choose to be a woman in science?
Okay, this is also gonna reveal my age, but when I was in high school, I was watching The Bold and the Beautiful, believe it or not, and I saw Brooke Logan in the lab, and she was working in a lab, and she was in a medical lab at the hospital working, and every time there was a problem, there was always like a DNA problem or somebody is sick, and they would always bring these samples to her, and she had all the answers. I like solving things, so I just thought, this one with all the answers, that's what I want to do. And later on in the series, she then joined the fashion world, the Forster creation, and she created this fabric in the lab. And that was like, wow, she could make a fabric that was mixed of satin and silk and everything. I was like, I want to do that. So mine, it was purely from TV. I saw her in a white coat. I didn't know anyone else who did science. She was the only person I saw in a white coat. I was like, I'm going for that. So when I applied, when I was in grade 11, grade 12, I applied, I found out that what she does in the hospital lab was a medical technology. So I applied for medical technology and biochemistry. So at university, I applied for biochemistry. I got in at University of Pretoria, but during orientation week, I found out that biological sciences was in Afrikaans from second year. And I was like, I'm not sure if I want to do Afrikaans chemistry. But there was an option of natural science. So the natural science was an English stream. So I then decided to change from biological to natural, because somebody told me this is still chemistry. You still get to be in the lab. And I think what also attracted me to that is that because I'm not doing biological anymore, I don't have to worry about blood and urine and all other bodily fluids. So I was more convinced to go the chemistry, industrial chemistry route. So I studied BSc chemistry at the University of Pretoria, and I did an honors in chemistry from Pretoria. I then later on did a master's in chemical engineering.
Oh, so, wow. So okay. But you don't do anything related to chemical engineering, or do you apply that a little bit in your work?
Well, I've worked as a chemist and a research scientist. And in the research scientist world, I did both. So what you'll do is you'll do your experiment in the lab and then take that and upscale it to the plant. So I had to go into the plant and just see the process in the plant. And whenever they did a pilot plant, you have to be there as the scientist in charge. So my chemical engineering was not necessarily because it was strategic, because my job involved being in the lab and in the plant. So I wanted to be able to navigate both disciplines quite easily. So being a research scientist moved me to just merge the chemical engineering and the chemistry.
Okay. And what are some of the challenges that you faced as a woman in science?
I think mainly my challenges were not necessarily in my lab or where I used to work, because I was very lucky that I had very supportive managers in my space, so they allowed me to do everything. So when I started my career, because I just immediately when I finished my degree, I already had an Anglo bursary, so I started working immediately. And I was just in the space where I was here to learn. I wanted to do everything and anything, and my bosses were very supportive. The only challenge that I had was with other people, because my boss used to send me to all these different meetings, and everybody else would look at me as like, what is this kid doing here? You know, and 20 years ago, I looked very young. I didn't look like I had a degree. So people used to think I was a matriculant, and I was now sent to these meetings, and they'll be wondering, why am I here? You know, is my boss not supposed to? Because he would not even go. You know, it's not like I'm shadowing him. He would say, okay, there's a meeting about this, and I think this is your space. This is what you're going to need to do. Go sit in that meeting. And other guys will look at me like, what is this one doing here? And also just in the production space, you have people you're supposed to engage with. Instead of talking to you, they talk to your other male counterpart and want them to give you instruction. And I would say, no, if this person wants this information, they can call me. And, you know, some of the guys will say, you've got a difficult name. I was like, well, I have a phone and an email address. They don't have to say my name. So they can just pick up the phone, call me directly, or send me an email, and I'll be able to answer their questions. So it's just other people that I had to work with who just didn't understand this little person who's supposed to be a chemist, you know, and yet to them I just look like somebody who doesn't know much. And I just had to work hard and just prove that, you know, I'm here to do my job and I know what I'm doing. I've been to school. You know, I survived University of Pretoria in the 90s. I mean, nothing else could be more difficult. So, yeah, so I just had to take up my space.
And you did. And you did. And you are. You did and you still
All right,
are.
thank you.
Right? So talking about taking space, what are you doing now? What are you doing that is making a difference, that is showing again that you're taking up space?
Okay, within the last 5 years, I've been involved with different organizations, and I'll just take you through some of them. Okay, one of them is Mamohlomi, which is an organization run by one of my friends and husband. And what I did with them is that I coordinated projects at Cosmos City. And we did different things. We did extra classes for grade 12s. So we did maths lit, physics, economics, business, and accounting. So we offered grade 12 extra classes after hours. And what we also did is at the Cosmos City Multipurpose Center, they have a boys and girls club where they take care of primary school kids. But the people that take care of these kids are unemployed youth. You know, we gave them leadership skills. We had a workshop where we spoke to them about professionalism, how to set their goal, how to present themselves, and also time management and things like that. And also making them be aware that they might be volunteering now, but the skills that they're gaining through this service they're providing is valuable, and this should be part of their CV. They shouldn't see it as I'm just passing time. You know, it's quite important that everything they do builds on, you know, the skills that they're learning that they can use, you know, in future. So we did a workshop on that. And then another organization I got involved with was a Dream Girls Academy. So I was doing that last year. So Dream Girls has a mentorship program. They took 20 students, 20 learners from Soweto, grade 11 and 12, and they pair you with a mentee. And we have a 10-month program where every month we discuss different topics. So you walk the journey with your mentee we talk about everything, body, mind, spirit, academy. So we get workshops where we speak finance. There's workshop where you speak health, wellness, mindfulness. They have projects on entrepreneurship. We also teach them to give back. So they also have a community project. They need to choose whatever they believe in and align to and do a community project. Those days we do career day. On career day, they have role models that come for the career. And the following month, we actually bring our laptops to help them apply for university. And then the last organization I'm involved in is Outlook Foundation, which is the one that has sort of spent most of my time with. So with Outlook Foundation, they work with SASTA, South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement. We do role models across 9 provinces. We go to rural areas, townships, everywhere. Outlook Foundation is advocates of STEMI. So they do, everybody in there is an engineer, mathematician, a chemist, everything science. So we go to schools, we talk about our careers, we make sure that instead of the Brooke Logans, they have me to say, hey, there's a scientist, that looks like me, and we just speak about the different careers. And we also have, with Outlook, a public works bursary program. So we run a mentorship for bursary students of public works. So we have in every province, so we have somebody in Cape Town, in KZN, we have 2 in Joburg, so we have one in Pretoria, and the other one for Joburg doing Wits and UJ. And I do Port Elizabeth. I coordinate the project, and I also do specifically Nelson Mandela University. So there we meet quarterly. So every quarter we have a workshop, and during the workshop we do different things. We'll be doing goal setting, where we get the students to just set goals for the year, and also just tangible activities to achieve their goals. We do things where we talk about professional registration, because they are engineers, they're public works students. They'll be engineers, they have to register. So we teach them about what's the professional registration process about. We teach them, we talk about study techniques, where we ask them, you need to know what is your study techniques. What works for one person doesn't work for you. We talk about what to eat when you study, what time is best for you to study, and just different activities that they can do, while studying. And we just said, we also help them also try and build their own leadership. So every single time they have to present something. So we look at their presentation skills, we help them with that. Any other issues that they have, they have to sort of discuss in that space.
You've mentioned all these different organizations that, you do some work with, and obviously all of these organizations have their own mandate and have their own reasons why they're doing this. But why are you doing this? Why are you so passionate about this?
I think more than anything for me is just to be able to say to people, we've done it. I've done science. And it was also, I had my own misconceptions about it. But then what can I give back to the community? How do I make them see that it's actually not that bad? Somebody else can do it. It's so nice when you see people being amazed by things that you regard as very simple, but that unlocks, their potential, and it makes them better, because we all have to pay it forward. I've done it. There's people that paid forward for me. So what am I doing to inspire other people, to empower them? And it's not just what you do, it's just engaging in things that somebody else might see as far-fetched. You just bring them closer to them, and so that they see the light. So whenever it comes to just being that voice sometimes, because, we can't all just carry on with our own lives as if the other person doesn't matter.
What informed your decision to take the route you're on now? So in other words, why did you decide you're going to be a consulting chemist and go out on your own instead of working for one institution?
I've worked for the same company since I was a student. So I'm a very loyal employee. So I've worked for the same company. I worked at different areas in the company, so as a chemist and as a research scientist. But it got to a point where I was like, what next? And I couldn't quite see my next. We spoke with my different bosses, like, do I go to this department or that? And I couldn't see it. And I enjoyed being involved with different things. And sometimes when you're employed, it's quite streamlined. When I left, I didn't have a clear picture of what exactly I'll be doing, but I just knew that what I was doing was not enough anymore. I've done it, I've been there, and I needed to do something different. So I just started gradually doing things. So I started with, while I was working, I applied for SANAS, which is an accreditation agency for labs. So I became an auditor for SANAS. I could do that while working. So when I stopped, I could continue with it. And then from there, I then moved into other things. So I do training now, I do consulting, and I'm using the experience that I had in the lab to do everything else that I do now. The beauty of now is that I see different people all the time. I see different labs. I learn different things. I'm not just limited to what my company can provide, but every other day is an opportunity to learn something new, to see something different, and to grow as a chemist, as an individual, in the space.
Yeah. So, but would you ever consider going back?
At the moment, no. And sometimes I do think about it because consulting work is not one day you have 10 people call you and say, yeah, we need you need to schedule yourself. Then there's times where it's quiet. On the quiet days, you just think, okay, what's next? But when I look at how things have gone, I'm actually happy, with the route. I haven't regretted my decision yet. I regret it sometimes when I have dry months, but I then just see it as it's just a little hiccup. Things will continue. And things that I've done, and people that I've been exposed to in this journey has just had a great impact in just general, and also appreciating what I know. Because I think until I got to this place, I really didn't know what I actually did know. But now when I go to a place and they ask me do this, and then I do it and I finish and I go to somewhere else and I do something different, and then it's like, oh, okay. And then I know also what I don't know. Then I can just increase my knowledge in that space. Say, okay, here I am not so sure, or I need to add on 1, 2, 3, and then it just helps me grow. It keeps me on my toes, so I like it.
The science space is very challenging. Even today, not to talk of when you started, like you said in the 90s, you're already in the science space, but what has been that one thing that has kept you in the game, that has kept you going for all these years? Because I'm sure you've been in this for way more than 10, 15 years. We're not going to give away your age. Sorry. So, why have you kept going, and what has kept you going?
I think now is because I realize that I actually enjoy chemistry. I enjoy it, and I really didn't when I was working. I don't think I enjoyed it as much. And I think what has kept me going is that I now start to understand things. I'm able to go into a space, look at what they would take for granted, and show the people that no, actually, there's a reason why we do this. There's a reason why we worry about temperature when we're dealing with this equipment. There's a reason. And I think what has kept me in the space is that I actually realize that there is a lot to do and there's a lot to know. And even when I started, I was always curious, so when I was working in the plant, most of the time you'll find people in the lab stay in the lab. But with me, I spent probably 50% of my time in the plant. I wanted to know, if I give you a result, what are you going to do with it? If there's an equipment that I'm doing, what exactly is it doing? So that keeps me going and keeps me excited. And every now and then I engage with other people and I see, oh, there's this to know and there's this new thing. So I haven't got to a point where I'm like, no, I'm done with this. I think I need to do something else. Yeah. But I think I'm getting to a point where I'm like, oh, okay, in this space. And I also not only deal with chemistry, applying the science in every other thing. I see that, we have this system, like maybe an IT system that doesn't work and people don't understand why, how you integrate it to your results, how you integrate your clients to what you do. So I'm now just not doing the lab work. I don't have to sit and mix chemicals in the lab, but now I can train, I can coordinate projects. I'm getting now requests on people who want to start labs. Somebody says, I want to start a lab. What do I need? So now I'm going into getting quotations for people to say, okay, you want to do this analysis, you need this instrument and that instrument, you're going to need to write this SOP. So it's now opening to just bigger than just playing with chemicals. Now I can help somebody start up their own lab. I can help them get accreditation because I'm a technical assessor for 17025. Can help them get accreditation. I can help them with the training. So there's all these different aspects of the lab that I'm actually involved in now.
What I'm seeing is that you're somebody who likes growing and learning and being challenged. And that is probably why you're now doing your own thing and consulting, because in that way you are, you encounter all these different companies, all these different people, all these different challenges compared to when you work for one institution where it was just, this is how we do things, this is it, and that's it. But at least now you have an opportunity to just keep getting challenged all the time. And I can see that you flourish from the challenges, and that's great.
I flourish the best. I like chaos.
That's good. No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. When we think science, yes, you were fortunate because with you had a bursary from the beginning, so you had a job waiting for you in a sense, right? But for those people who are like, why would I do science? There's no jobs for science. It's pointless. What's the point? What can you tell them to be like, go for it?
Okay, I think what people need to understand in terms of jobs, yes, in South Africa, we know we have a problem with employment, especially graduate employment. But what I always say to people is that you can do your science degree, but you need to think beyond the degree. You know, one of the things I said with a similar discussion was that when you do, people will say, I did an analytical chemistry diploma and I don't know what to do. I'm like, okay, with just a diploma, it might not be enough. Did you consider doing a BTech in environmental chemistry? Did you consider doing a BTech in quality? Did you consider doing a BTech in another applied science where you can apply your chemistry but apply it somewhere else? Because right now we're in a space where we need you to merge skills. You know, we don't need pure chemists or pure IT or pure quality. We need people that are able to do more than one job. You know, we need people that have an IT skill, but in the lab, where labs have to have a LIMS system, a laboratory management system. But you need to understand the results, understand the instrument to be able to implement that space. So normally you have two people, the IT guy and the chemist, speaking to each other. This one saying, I need this. But if you don't understand each other, it becomes a problem. So as somebody with a diploma or a degree in chemistry, what else, what other skills can you add on to just set you apart? You know, and then when you get to where you need to be, say you get an internship, show up. You know, people get internships and they sit around, they give you a job that lasts for an hour because as students, sometimes you get ignored. But what are you doing to be visible? You know, one of the things I did earlier on in my career, we were students, a whole lot of us coming in. Our work was probably 2 hours of the day. The rest of the day, I went to my supervisors, like, what are you doing? And it's like, no, I have to do this. Sometimes they would chase me away. But then I'll come back and say, so can I help you with that? You know, and sometimes to keep me busy because I talk too much, they will give me the job and explain, and I'll do that. The next time somebody else is busy with something else, I'll go sit next to them and like, what are you doing? When a technician comes on site, I go and see what are they fixing? You know, is there something that I can do? So over the years, I've tried to equip myself with just not the lab mixing of chemicals or diluting or doing that, but stretching my boundary to say, understanding everything around the lab, understanding how things connect, you know. And as a student, yes, getting into internship might be difficult, but when you do, what do you do with it? You know, maybe work at a university, learn other things, what other skill can, I mean, I've done chemistry, I've done chemical engineering, and I have project management as well. You know, I've done in training, I've done assessor and facilitator courses. I try and do as many courses just to build up, you know, and make sure that you're not just one single career, but you can move around and you're able to understand other people within the space that you are in.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Like there's a few things that you said, which I just found is like, this is so relevant. But one thing that really stuck out for me in what you said is we need to show up, right? And we also need to take onus of what we want to get out of the space. Because quite often you walk into a room, you sit in the corner. Yes, there might be somebody who comes and says hi to you in the corner. But if you take the initiative to stand up and walk up to somebody, you don't know what's going to come out from that conversation. You don't know what's going to come out from asking your lecturer, hey, can I come and help you? Or whatever the case may be. I think we miss out on so many opportunities because we just don't ask. We just want to sit in the corner and say nothing. And especially when you're a student in varsity, your lecturers are the most knowledgeable people that you have access to, you know, and they actually do like talking if you asking them the right questions. And you'll be surprised what information they would give you, but we just don't. And then we miss out, which is so sad.
Yes, even with my bursary, my lecturers actually helped me with my bursary because I got my bursary when I was doing my final year. You know, they told us that, oh, these guys are coming in, you guys must come to this room, there'll be a presentation and apply. And on top of that, they wrote a motivation letter, you know, when I did that. And I had to just go through the interview process, you know. So the lecturers are there and there's always work you can do as a student to help out. Just if you want to be in the space, just be around there. Be around people that do what you do. Volunteer. People take for granted how much you get from volunteering because you might be working for free, but the connections that you get from that space, you know. A lot of the volunteering work that I do, I've managed to make friendships and collaborate with people on other things, you know, that it started with, I mean, we made through somebody saying, okay, you do something similar. what else can we do together? Those kind of things. We just need to connect and just see what's going on. Don't just sit in your corner and wait for a job. It's not gonna come to you.
It's not gonna come. No, that is true. That is true. Especially now, it's just not gonna come to you at all. We generate more interest in science, but now get decision makers involved so that kids can have a better interest in science and see science a little bit differently from how they traditionally see it.
We need to start bringing science to just everybody in simple language. We can speak in our own lecture rooms with all this jargon, but be able to present it, because there's no point in you doing a beautiful thesis and you getting your cum laude in there, but it doesn't translate to a problem you're solving in the country, where nobody really knows. I mean, if somebody knows that, okay, I now have this purified water and it was somebody's PhD, they would one day want to do a PhD to solve another problem in the community, because we need to make science real, because right now it almost looks like something from outer space. We need to just bring it down and make it real, and people should see that we're solving problems through science in different science. I mean, science is wide. There's different disciplines, and each and every one of them, if you're just doing it, yes, we need research and academia to be able to write papers, but we need to solve everyday problems. And as soon as people know that this is how it's all linked, I think that will spark an interest, because somebody might not necessarily think I'm going into science, but they might say, I need to solve this problem. And yet solving this problem means getting a PhD in the process. I mean, why not?
Yeah. And also what you're also saying is about the spaces that we have. For example, even this platform that we're talking on now is a form of a science communication platform, because I could easily ask you some of the things that you're working on. I mean, some of the guests that we've had, I would ask them, what are you working on? And everybody who's watching understands what this person is working on because they were able, or they were forced to now explain this and tell us what their research is about without using all the science jargon. And then everybody's watching, they're just like, what?
I mean, look, now we're doing science. Yeah, sorry, I was saying, look, now we're doing science on Insta. I mean, Insta is usually for everything fashionable and everything. We're talking science on Insta. That, in a way, is just opening up the space.
What is the government doing in terms of pushing more funding into science and technology? Because yes, there's always a budget and there's money allocated for this and this and this. But in my mind, maybe it's because I'm in the science space, I know the importance of science and technology. I almost feel it's more important than some of the other fields. I probably shouldn't say into trouble. But because if you really look at it, science and technology is what tends to fuel a country's economy. Countries that are able to produce their own products, they then sell them back to us. Because, for example, we have a lot of resources, but we don't have people who are able to work with these resources. So we sell them out and then they get made into final products and sold back to us, but we are here. And
times, yes. I think it needs to be intentional, because we've got the raw materials and we always, when it comes back, it's like 1,000,000 times more than the price. And those kind of initiatives needs to be practical, because I think right now, some of them are there, but they're on paper. It's some kind of a 20-year plan, but we need to break those plans into, okay, what are we doing now? And I think those that are available are not being communicated, so that we don't really know what's happening. So I think the communication is probably missing. So there's probably a lot, because I know in terms of technology, like there's now nanotechnology, and there's a lot of things being done in different spaces, whether medical field or mining and things like that, or nanotechnology. But you don't get to see it unless you're sitting in some conference that, oh, they've done this with this space and they've done that. But you don't get to, not your man on the street sees. So we need to be able to say, oh, okay, there was funding put into this project and it has helped in this way. Or we're doing technology on this, There's other things we hear about, in terms of some of the projects that have been around. Those get popular and you hear about it, but what about the rest? We need to have enough communication. The other problem is that a lot of our schools still don't have labs, They don't have, kids can't do science. They do science on paper. They can't do it practically. Some of these things you have to have it practical. When I did National Science Week, the grade 7 was the first time that so I had a periodic table that I got sponsored, and I was giving it to them. Some of them was the first time they see that. And yet I know that some of my friends, their kids that are in private schools are doing research on water purification system, for that matter. And yet the grade 7 student in a government school doesn't even have a lab. So there's those kind of things that there's still a big gap we're missing. And the more we invest in these things, the more we make sure that kids know what's out there, their teachers know what's around, and maybe it will help. But we just need to be intentional. I think more than anything, let's not make it a 20 or a 50-year plan. Let's put in 5-10-year plans and actually have a list of this what's been done, this is what needs to be done, and we'll see it from there. But there is a lot of good research being done. I attended some of these research awards, and it's amazing of some of the work that's been done out there. It's just that not enough, I guess, has been done.
Yeah. Somebody commented here saying teachers, parents, and lecturers need to stop us from fearing science. I stopped chemistry in standard 8 because I was discouraged and told how difficult it was. This is sad. Okay, I'm going to just add on to this because I've seen this practically. I've seen schools who have, firstly, they'll be like, sometimes, depending on the type of school you go to, they'll either do an aptitude test and be like, based on your aptitude, you can't do maths, you can't do science, right? So already they've decided for you because you took this test. Maybe you had a bad day on that day, you didn't get good marks or whatever they deem as good marks, and therefore science is maths and maths is out, right? And then 2, you'll find that in schools where they like choose, the under-resourced schools especially, they'll be like, choose your subjects, and maybe only 3 kids choose science, and they're like, you know what, we can't afford a teacher, so we're not having science. So what do you think, I don't know, what advice can you give? What can we do so they're not scared? They don't make kids scared of science and drop it and tell them it's hard.
And I don't know if there's anything more, because right now is, yes, if in that school the teachers just not encouraging them to do that, it's a problem. Because that's why I'm saying some of the role modeling campaigns we do, it's exactly for that reason. To say, I have studied chemistry, and some of my chemistry subjects were in Afrikaans. I went to the University of Pretoria. Guys, if I could do it in Afrikaans, why can't you? And I think that is where we try, and some of these, like Science Week, National Science Week, we try and make it easy and practical, and so that the kids can see that, oh, I can also do that. But it's unfortunate that, yes, there is a stigma around it. There's a stigma around science that it's difficult. It's not for everyone, because we all have, like, I can't do drama, I can't do arts, but I can do science. Everyone has their special skill, but we don't need, like, we need to open up everything for our kids. Let them do everything, and they will then be drawn to whatever their passion is and be able to do it. You can't just say you can't do it or because of this. Sometimes you find I've had examples where somebody decided in their matric year that they actually wanted a certain career, that way they needed maths and science, pure maths and a science. And only in matric they see that because they're trying to apply. And then they have to, there is some other people that have done grade 10 to 12 maths and science in that matric year and actually passed. Because that person was determined to say, this is the route I want to go, whatever it takes. And if the teachers are supportive and the parents, they go to extra lessons and they do what they need to do to get into that space. But it's because before that, everybody was discouraging and you go with the flow. I also didn't like maths in school because everybody said it was difficult. But it's just that because I was able to do it, my teachers didn't allow me to drop it, So, and it was the opposite of it. But I was like, nah, nobody's doing maths high grade. I also don't want it. But I ended up doing it anyway. They're like, no, you can't. You can do this one. But it's just one of those that I think the teachers need to understand their responsibility in the space as well. The parents need to understand them. And then we as a community at large, you've got these agencies like SASTA, whose mandate is to science advancement. It's for them to have these outreach programs to say, this can be done. There is support, because more than anything, you can't say to somebody, do science, and then you don't support them. You know, you have support, you know, and if somebody is struggling, what channels can they go to? How do they get help? You've got Saibono, where schools, if a school doesn't have a lab, the Saibono, they have labs. So the school can actually book time at the Saibono lab to go do their practicals. They'll get all the chemicals and anything, but most schools don't. They're not interested. They're not doing much. I don't know if they don't know about that these facilities exist, or they're just not interested. But there is things that are happening. It's just that, you know, people just need to be responsible on how they approach these different activities.
Yeah, yeah. But I think with all the work that you've been doing with all these different organizations, it's a step in the right direction. Like you said, you go to rural areas, you go to those spaces, and you speak to the children, and you show them what you do, and you show them this is what a scientist looks like, and it's a scientist that actually looks like them. So it's a lot closer to home. And you know, if you do go into a community where you can speak, you know, your local language, then they even feel like, oh wow, okay, so this scientist speaks Zulu. Okay, you know, this works. This is a thing. So I'm grateful for all the work that you're doing, and I think it's really good work. And if we can all just do that, even if it's just one person, like every time somebody says to me science is difficult, I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Because I want them to have a different view of it. I'm not going to force them to go into science if they don't want to do it, but I don't want them to say I don't want to do it because it's difficult. How do you know it's difficult? Who said it's difficult? I'm saying it's not. So what do you mean? Okay, we're speaking about funding for science projects, and you know how what the government is doing, and somebody commented here that government is reducing funding in science projects in favor of social programs. I think that is the unfortunate part of living in a so-called developing world, where quite often social issues will take precedence over anything else, you know. So that's just an unfortunate part, but they should also consider how science can solve social problems too.
Exactly. We shouldn't look at it as some monster that's out there, you know. It's part of who we are, and we need to embrace it.
Yeah. So do you have anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
I think I've said enough. No, I think thank you very much for the invite and for just letting me just speak about some of the things we do. Hopefully, because we need a whole lot of people to do something, you know. So hopefully from what I say and where I don't reach, somebody else can add on. You know, there's a whole lot to still be done, and we can only do like our part, you know. So thank you for the space, because then this is like something different. So we're putting science into social media, and this is another step to making it fashionable, if that's the word. But just trying to just get more, not to be scared, you know, do it not because somebody else is, but do it because just give it a chance and see if you like it or not. Don't be scared from it and say, no, somebody said it's difficult. Difficult for who? You know, and hopefully we'll change that. It will be that I personally don't like eggs, and that's why I don't do it. You know, it has nothing to do with it being difficult, you know. So thank you for the space.
Yeah, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. We appreciate it. Thank you so much to everybody for watching. This was really amazing.
Thank you everybody that tuned in. Thank you to all my peeps. Thank you for the support, and thank you.
All right, bye.